If you're an artist or creative individual thinking about jumping into code or programming, one of the first things you've probably considered is jumping into front-end web development. And if you aren't familiar, that's basically the side of the website that when you go to the website and what you see and interact with, that is the front end. The back end is a lot, has to do more with how things are stored in like databases, some programming stuff, and all that. So the most obvious choice for a lot of artists or creative individuals is going to be jumping on that front end side of things. You see things like Wix, you see things like Squarespace, you see things like Weebly, and you're wondering to yourself, is this industry going to die? Is the role of a front end web developer going to die? And that is a good question. Let's talk about it. So first of all, it's probably, if you're brand new to this field, there's probably a couple things that you should right off the bat consider that not everybody's going to know. So there are services out there, and I'm just going to use Squarespace and Wix because they're the most popular, I think, at least at this point in time. What they're promising to do is basically give the client a website for cheap and give them the ability to bypass the cost of a designer, because they'll be able to design it themselves and have direct access to all the components they need, and they'll just pay a monthly fee. And I think that there are some pros and cons to this that need to be addressed right off the bat. So one of the most biggest and obvious things is jumping from a platform like that where you basically have a templating system, right? And you are restricted by what they give you. They're gearing it more towards somebody who doesn't want to spend a lot of money. Actually, that's pretty much it. It's really being geared towards somebody who doesn't want to spend a lot of money, which is fair. I mean, who wants to spend a lot of money? The problem is there are going to be limitations when you allow somebody simply a GUI interface, an interface that they can do everything they need to do just from the GUI side of things. Because the downside is you are limited by what you can build. It's basically giving you a bunch of Legos, which is great. The problem is that they're only giving you certain colors of Legos and certain pieces of Legos. And with that, you'll have to make the website. Versus you know how to code, you can just make whatever color Lego you need to, make whatever you need to do, and make those components work as you see fit. You see, people want websites that are custom designed towards their needs, that's tailored designed towards them. And with some of these services, they just simply can't offer that, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to make everybody your customer, and you want everybody to do and have the exact same abilities. The problem is that it's very difficult to make a one size fits all. They've been trying to do this since the very beginning, since the web was around, that they've been trying to make something so simple, and WordPress has come the closest to that in regards to making a one size fits all. The problem is, even then, WordPress has its limitations if you don't know how to go behind the scenes and into the code. If a customer comes to you asking for certain features or abilities that aren't just in there yet, you are stuck and limited, and you cannot provide exactly what the customer is asking for. If you can't build it, you just have what you have. Things are going to get even more complicated now, so more so now, because what we have to focus on is both the mobile side of things, the tablets, and of course your full screens. And then I suspect in the future we'll eventually get into something with more of the VR side of things. The VR side of things? Really? Yeah, well, let's just see where this goes, because I have a feeling that eventually the internet will start to go a little bit in that direction, and you'll start seeing some VR websites, and that'll be something that's a whole new bag of worms. So, I think you're pushing it just a little bit too much on what's actually going to happen with VR. Maybe so, but let's go ahead and find out. Even as things stand right now, when you design a web developer to go ahead and build your website, there's a lot of misconceptions. So the customer will often think that they can build the front end of the website in one of these platforms and then simply give you access to do whatever it is you need to do and build for the remainder of the components or the difference or whatever the case is. But of course, at this point in your education, you probably learned that that's just not how it works. It is a closed system that you do not have access to that kind of code, and you can't just be hooking into certain parts of it and modifying it. Like, you just don't have access to the code. It's all built on the GUI interface side of things. Because of that reason, there's going to be other important limitations. So the main reason why people make a website is they want to be found. Everybody wants to be found on the internet. And of course, everybody wants to rank for their specific keywords, for their specific phrase, or of course, their company name. And a lot of that is done with the SEO throughout the website. We're talking about alternative titles and different parts of the blogs and, the images. I mean, there's a lot of complexity that goes into that. If the customer is doing this themselves, they're not necessarily going to be knowing what they're doing or how to target correctly. The second thing is everybody you're competing with is trying for the exact same thing. If you build a website from scratch and you're trying to optimize it for its ranking in Google, you're going to have a much better of a time with speed. You're going to have a much better time with actually accuracy of getting hit for what you want to get hit for. And you're just simply going to be ranking higher. That's just the end of it. And at the end of the day, that's the real goal. The real goal of the website is to be ranked as number one or to be ranked at the top so that when people look for you, they find you and you can provide that client or customer whatever service it is that they're looking for. Simply put, these guys can't do it the same way. They just don't have the same access to the same tools. Now, they have to be good for something. I mean, people are using them and they're just making tons of money. Well, yeah, they're making tons of money off of a lot of people, and for different reasons, though. For example, if you have a very small website that's only going to be up for, a few months and you're not necessarily making like a big company thing, and, a lot of people will consider that as a fast option to build something real quick, and maybe they just need a website put together haphazardly so that they can have access to it, right? If you are building a company on one of these platforms, it's by no means a horrible thing. Just know that you are going to be limited, and depending on what you want to offer your customers and the experience you want to give them, you are going to be limited in your creativity in that sense of scope. The irony is a lot of people are doing this because they want to have the creative control. They want to have that creative ability to build what they want and how they want. But there's a couple of things. One, there's going to be a learning curve because you have to actually learn whatever the interface is. And for people who aren't creative in the first place, that's going to be its own hurdle. And it actually is enough of a deterrent to actually go find somebody who does know how to build those things, who does know how to do those things. But if there's somebody who's just like, hey man, I need to save money and this is just how it has to be, totally understand. And for them, they're going to have access to certain tools that allow them some of the basic abilities for building a website. Ranking is a different thing, but they also have other ways they can promote their website, and you can go ahead and see how that goes. But don't let me make you think that front-end web development is safe. No. Of course, as time goes on and things progress better, the access to the kinds of things that I'm talking about will become a little bit more easier for them to do without needing that front-end web developer. So is it a dying industry? Not exactly. A couple things. If you are thinking about doing front-end web development, there's a few different components I would suggest getting into. First of all, web design. So if you can do the artistic side of things and do more of the web development side of things, if you can design it and build it, awesome. But more so than that, you're going to need to know a little bit more about how things interact. We're talking about jQuery and JavaScript, and getting involved with how things move around on the screen. Take it a step further because you're going to want to make some AJAX requests. You're going to want to update certain parts of the website. You're going to want to be able to build certain custom abilities on the website for whatever unique features they have. If they need to find something, they need to build an interactive box or whatever, that's going to be on you. It's more than just HTML and CSS and JavaScript. You're going to want to get a little bit more on the back end side of things. You're going to want to know just a little bit of jumping back and forth and be an overall well-developed full stack guy. Front end, back end, and how things go on in between. By all means, you don't need to be a master of all things, but at least be familiar with how all the different parts work together. That'll make you more valuable, and ultimately, as the front end side of things starts to get a little bit more away, you're providing more than just front end web development. Because the front end side of things is limited also in its own. So, to know exclusively the front end side of things is not going to be helpful, especially in the long game. So don't be afraid. It's not going anywhere in regards to I'm about to enter a field that is dying and there will be no more customers. There's going to be plenty of customers. The number of websites keeps going up. The number of companies people that are making their own companies just keeps going up. And that is something that you'll have access to. And if cost is purely the only reason why they're going to one of these companies, totally understand, but they're also not your customer. Not everybody is your customer. And that's something that they probably don't advertise as well to people jumping in. If you're somebody who's looking to build a website for, $300-400, that's not necessarily going to be something that you're going to jump to a web designer for. Well, what if they only need like one page and it's just strictly a contact us page and, it's super basic? Every time you hear this word that the website is just super basic, it's just super simple, I just need a blah, 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 blah. The thing is that you'll have to realize that there's more than just a simple blah, 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 blah. There's always more. There's always more things that need to be done to it or design. And once again, we're dealing with responsive design, right? So we need different layouts and things that look differently. There are tools on the coding side of things that make that easier, like Bootstrap. And with some of these templates that these guys are offering, they might do it for you, and in some cases they don't do it for you. In some cases they do it for you, and in other cases they don't do it for you. It's all just dependent on which template you have. The thing is now you're stuck with whatever template they had to choose for you. But I get it. You're listening to this video because you want to know, am I safe? Should I learn HTML? Should I bother with CSS? Should I bother with JavaScript and all this stuff so I can build the front end side of things? And once again, my answer is going to be absolutely learn those things. Get your design down, get your front end web development down, but also don't be afraid to venture off into things that you won't initially consider to be creative. There is creativity in programming. There is creativity outside of just the visual side of things, and there is a lot of artistic opportunity for you outside of just the most obvious portions of it. But because of that reason, you need to be able to go across and become that full stack developer and understand that, simply put, your strength is the front end side, but you are familiar with the back end. You can build a whole website from scratch to do anything and everything you want it to do, but your focus can be on the front end side of things. And that will give you a ability to stand out amongst the crowd, and more importantly, to give people a reason to justify purchasing your services over buying one of these Wix Squarespace options, okay? Remember, not everybody is your customer. We want to not shy anybody away, but the thing is that we have to sometimes say that if you're looking for a $100 website for this simple thing, it's just not the case that can be you. That has to be, they're just going to have to find a different option. And if they only want to spend a few dollars a month and that's how they can justify the thing, that's fine. Don't feel like everybody who comes knocking at the door is a valid customer. Everybody come knocking at your door is a prospect. Somebody that might have the opportunity to be a customer to you, but not necessarily will become one. Well, take it back. Everybody who comes to you is a lead, not a prospect yet. They're not potentially a customer talking back and forth about buying something from you. They just want to know what the price is, and if that price is just simply more than they're willing to do, you have to basically say, I understand, I'm just not the guy for you. I just can't do it that way. And that's the case. I have seen a couple times where people end up, unfortunately, spending money on one of these services, and then they want to make some changes, they want to make some upgrades, and they can't do it, or they have contact an actual web developer to make those changes, and that's simply at that point when they have to explain to them that we can't just go into Wix, we can't just go into Squarespace. We don't have that ability to make the kind of changes you're talking about. You're talking about building custom things that just aren't available on that platform. So you're an artist, be prepared to make custom things, creative things, and literally the world is your oyster in regards to you can just build anything on a website. Make it look good, make it appealing. Don't be afraid about the front-end web development side of things. We're just going to slowly start redefining what front-end web development entails and includes. Maybe things will go VR. Maybe. I think it'd be really cool if they do. There's going to be somebody who tries that out. Yeah, probably. Thanks for watching. This is Chris with CodeChris.com. What are your thoughts about the front-end web development side of things? Is the front end dying? I know I'm probably not the only person who's talked about this, who's questioned this, but this is definitely something that a lot of artists are worried about. A lot of people new to the field are worried about. A lot of brand new front-end web developers are worried about. And like I said, You can't learn just front-end web development, but also understand that what that term means now and what it's going to mean in a few years isn't quite the same. And so for that reason, I say, don't worry, your job is safe, but it's more than just the HTML and CSS that's going on in the future. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.